Hi, I'm Dr. Amber Hughes. Welcome to Counseling Ethics Lecture 1. In this lecture, I'm going to talk about the difference between laws versus ethics and really go into the definitions of some different terms that help us understand what ethics means, what it means for our profession. All right, so first we're going to look at the definitions for morals, values, and ethics. Morals means customs or norms. It's a cultural term, or it's determined by culture, and it guides how we act and how we believe. For example, in our culture, American culture, it's a more of an individualistic culture, right? It's One of our morals is that we should be more independent, and we should be striving for independence, right? And working towards kind of being happy in our own happiness and satisfaction. Whereas other cultures that are more collectivists may be more concerned with making sure that the community or the family is happy before themselves. Okay, so again, that's more of a cultural determination of beliefs and actions. Values, however, are more of a personal belief. Now they're guided, or our values are developed from our culture and our faith and those other things, our family, but they are different from morals. Because we can have the same values but different morals. So if we go back to that example of morals, in individualistic versus collectivist cultures, we might have a value. You can have a value that you should respect your family, but it may look different in two different cultures that have those different morals, right? So in American culture, your value may be to respect your family, but again, it's going to look different from this individualistic culture, where maybe you still have your own life, but you talk to your parents daily, you visit your family over the holidays, those kinds of things, versus more of a collectivist culture, which that value may look different. Okay. We also have professional values in our profession, and we're asked to sometimes we have to set aside our personal values within the counseling relationship. Okay, so that's called bracketing. So this is whenever you have personal beliefs, and sometimes that might be tied to religion or politics, and we try and bracket those. Again, that means to set aside those personal values so that we can help people who are different from us, and so that we can help, even if we're helping people who are the same as us. So we try and bracket our values so that we don't unnecessarily impact our clients' beliefs and actions. Our goal really is to help people help themselves, not tell people what to do. And sometimes whenever we aren't able to bracket our values, whenever they come out in our counseling sessions, we might influence our clients. Even unknowingly, we might not do it intentionally, right? Ethics is a discipline within philosophy that is concerned with human conduct and moral decision making. So you might have your own personal, your kind of personal ethics. These are your personal thoughts or ways that guide how you treat others. Your expectations for treatment of yourself and your behaviors toward others. Professional ethics, now these are guided by your profession. And in counseling, we have the American Counseling Association's Code of Ethics. The newest version is the 2014 version, and this is what guides our professional ethics. This guides how we should behave in a professional manner. Law is related to morality and ethics, but it's different. So laws are kind of, they are agreed upon rules in society that sets forth basic principles for living together as a group. Okay. So they're rules, right? Whereas ethics are guides for our behavior. Laws are things that, if we break them, they're going to have consequences on a societal level. Okay, now we can break our code of ethics and we might face consequences from our profession. We might lose our license if we break those code of ethics. Laws, if you break a law, you can go to jail, you can be fined. There's other more punitive types of consequences. Professionalism. Now, professionalism is a concept that's closely tied to the idea of best practice in a specific field. This is where you're trying to be the very best counselor you can be. Best practice guidelines are intended to provide counselors with goals to which they can aspire. They are motivational and they're distinguished from ethical standards. So the ethical standards are kind of the minimum expectations that we have for you as a counselor. And those are enforceable. Those are kind of the bare minimum. That doesn't mean you can't go above and beyond. And it doesn't mean that going above and beyond isn't what we aspire to. Okay. So that's what we aspire to, is to be the best counselor we can, the most ethical counselor we can. We just have those standards to kind of establish a bare minimum, that is required for you to be an effective counselor. Laws versus ethics. Okay, so there are differences. Laws are created by elected officials, right? They're created by people in positions of power within our community or society. They dictate minimum standards of behavior that society will tolerate. Ethics are created by members of the profession, and they're enforced by members of the profession through maybe ethics committees, licensing boards, certification boards. Ethics pertains to a wider range of professional functioning. Some prescribe minimum requirements and some describe ideal practices to which the counselor should aspire. So while laws kind of dictate, as I said, the minimum standards of behavior, what you need to do to not get in trouble, right? Ethics, while it has those minimum standards, you shouldn't do this, it's also really trying to tell you how you should do to be that best person you should be. Okay, so it's less about what we'll tolerate and more about being the best, most ethical counselor you can be. More positive, I think. And finally, the codes of ethics. Codes of ethics are ways for a profession to establish status, educate members of what constitutes ethical practice, and help ensure accountability. So it is a way to regulate, for counselors to regulate others. Okay, so we have these standards that we have determined, that our profession has determined as how we should act and how we should be as counselors. And if you break or if you violate those, again, you violate that code of ethics, you can be punished. You can be punished professionally, not legally. Codes of ethics cannot provide an answer to every question you have. And so in another lecture, we're going to talk about ethical decisions because they happen a lot. They are, however, a good resource to help guide you in possible actions. There are two basic types of or kind of thoughts of ethics. So one are mandatory ethics. This is you acting to stay within compliance. And then there are aspirational ethics. This is you trying to act in the highest form of conduct, what you aspire to be like. So again, that's speaking to that ethics as a minimum standard of behavior versus best professional conduct or aspirational ethics. Again, that's what we're striving for. So even though throughout this lecture series, we're going to talk about the different standards of our ethical code, and what the bare minimum is, we're also going to talk about what the aspiration is or what the best practice is, which is what we aspire to as counselors.